Good morning, everybody. Baruch Hashem, happy prep day, Shabbat Shalom. I wanted to share some cool things that I learned while I was reading the Children's Elucidated Chumash to my kids this week for Parasha Vayishlach, and an amazing correlation it has to the times that we're in with Israel and Gaza. So when we get to the part in the Parasha when Shimon and Levi, who I learned this week, were actually Irish twins. They're both 13. Decided, as Yaakov describes it later, conspires together to defend their sister Dinah because Yaakov was not doing anything. And they went without really consulting him. And as we know, after this scheme, that the whole city of Shechem agreed to get a Brit Milah, and on the third day, which is the hardest day of recovery, Shimon and Levi go and not only kill Hamor and Shechem, Shechem's dad, the king and the prince, but also the whole city. And what I thought was an amazing correlation was the reasons behind this and the reactions behind this. So Shimon and Levi obviously wanted to defend Dinah's honor, and their case, if you want to come from it from like a legal standpoint, their case is that they wanted to make an example so that there would be this I'm kind of at a loss for words. I've got pregnancy brain, but that the nations surrounding them would not be so inclined to come against Yaakov's family, that the people around them would not be so inclined to mess with Israel because they would set such an example with Shechem that there would be a deterrence. That was the word I was looking for. It would be a deterrent effect, right? And Yaakov, on the flip side, his argument is that, well, you've been so intense in your response to the treatment of Dinah, the rape of Dinah, that you're likely to provoke all of the surrounding peoples and nations to come and fight against us, which is what happened. That there was two men that actually escaped the wrath. Well, actually, Yaakov uses a different Hebrew word, not wrath, but rage. The rage of Levi and Shimon. And who is it here? It says Hamek Devar says that when their initial rage was spent, explains the difference between rage and evra, wrath. In the context of this verse, rage was the fury that caused them to lash out when they lost their tempers, but even when the initial rage was spent, they remained wrathful enough to continue their destructiveness, as in the case of even the livestock of Shechem. And we see this discussion happening with, okay, so are we going after Hamas? Are the bystanders in Gaza, are the civilians, are they, what is, and I think the halakhic question is, what is their level of responsibility, of liability for the crimes that are being committed against Jews, right? And so Yaakov, at least in the children's Chumash, I need to do more research about this, but Yaakov says that they're innocent bystanders. Dinah, she's crying out, she's yelling, people are hearing what's going on, and they know that what's going on with Dinah, but it's the prince that's taken her. Who can come against the prince, And Hamas is the ruling authority. Who can come against him? And as we see, Hamas, they're murdering people inside as they're trying to flee. There's people dead on the side of the road because Hamas snipers are shooting them. They're using their own people as human shields to protect them. These people, it's in their mind, the mindset is that, death is the end, and and we have nothing to lose, and at all costs, we're just going to stick to this plan, and may Hashem send confusion into their ranks, and just break down their communication and cause them to flee the fight with the IDF, B'ezrat Hashem. But so that's that's been the case of it, and so Shimon and Levi, they're saying, no, these were not innocent people bystanding. They have some level of responsibility. But Yaakov's case is that you were right to go and kill Shechem and his father Hamor, but you should not have killed the whole city. And so this is the discussion that we see with Uzzah and Israel is, and I understand the whole parking lot sentiment, but it's more complex than that. It's more complex, and as the light of the world, we have to have a very thorough and rightly weighted response, right? Because if we do something out of order, if we have this initial totally justified rage, and then we go on and we go beyond that, beyond what the situation calls for, and we do more destruction than our Father, even our Father in heaven, because you see that Hashem's commentary on this account of Shechem and what Shimon and Levi did is, Levi was able to rectify this trait within him for bloodlust, and he was able to rectify it. His tribe became the priesthood. The Kohanim come from him, the Levi'im. They're able to rectify it. And Shimon, not so is his case, but when they get the tribal allotment, he doesn't get his own portion of land. He gets cities within the tribe of Judah, I believe. So he has cities within another tribe. He doesn't get his own land, and it's for this reason. And I believe that his cities are actually also a tikkun, because I think, and I please welcome any comments, because this is just, my my very good morning, sweet girl. Good morning. My very just my take and my very limited understanding on the issue. So if anyone has any other commentary, any other understanding related to any of the points that I'm mentioning, please go ahead and chime in. Or if I get any details wrong, please go ahead and chime in the comments. But that the Shimon cities, they're actually the cities of refuge. And so we see that Hashem kind of tries to give Shimon a way to rectify this trait within himself, that if anyone is accidentally, careless and carelessly causes the death of another person, they can flee to these cities of refuge. And so we see that Hashem sees the need for correction to Shimon and Levi for what they've done in Shechem. And so we have to learn from that. We have to go forward with that understanding of, okay, maybe the answer is not parking lot Uzzah. That's not the answer. That we can't have this wrath that goes beyond what the situation calls for. And so it's interesting. My prayer is that Hashem would give us understanding, and those with the influence to call the shots at this time in the military and the government of Israel, and call Israel around the world understanding of what does this situation call for. Okay, so obviously Hamas has to be eliminated. Obviously the education system and training up these children from, babies, putting the green headband on them and waving them around and saying, I'm going to encourage my daughter to do X, Y, and Z of these terrible things. Obviously the education program needs to be eliminated, but, we have to deal with culpability in a very a responsible, halakhically weighted way. What is their culpability? And that's going to vary, and Hashem sees, and so may Hashem impart his divine insight to those that are weighing out retribution, and then have it within their hand to withhold it, and this is the age of faith, and so for those that need some consequences, may they be coming, and it's the test of the righteous to see these consequences that are supposed to come not come. And it's our test to do the right thing for the right thing's sake. But it's also those in Aza that have some measure of fear of Hashem, and may they, the ability to receive Yirat Shamayim, may they receive the fear of heaven and be able to rely on Hashem as their rock at this time to leave. That's really the only way, is because what we see, in the example of Sodom and Gomorrah. And I think that this plays in, and please, if anybody has this, overall big picture understanding of how to weigh these stories differently, please weigh in. But what I see is that what Hashem teaches us in Parasha Vayishlach through the example of the destruction, the total annihilation of the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, is that when you legally institutionalize wickedness, that's when you are... you're signing up your city for destruction. That is what you're doing. And it's not, just a societal ill. It's not a trend. It is a legalized societal institution to do wickedness. And that is what is happening in Aza. And we see that there were none righteous. Even Lot could not turn his own family. He was being swayed. He was under the influence of Sodom. He wasn't turning the tide. He couldn't even get his married children and their husbands on board. And so, enough to save the city. And so, the question remains, what is to be done? And who can respond? Who can respond to the ministry of truth in Aza, who's ready to respond to that? Because there's people just going along with the flow and partaking in wickedness. And this is what happened in the Third Reich, is that there's just normal people that don't have the inner strength and the inner fortitude to do the right thing for the right thing's sake. And that is the sway over this generation. That is the sway over the world in the end times. The propensity. That is the propensity, but there's always more than one side of the story. But that is the propensity, is for people who are just living their own life and can be good parents to their children in a sense, but they don't have the inner fortitude to break away from systemic, institutionalized, legalized wickedness. And I don't, the answer is not, take them head on, one versus, unless you're Abraham and Eliezer. And that is why, and back to the story of Shechem, is these two guys, they actually survive the slaying of Shimon and Levi, right? And they run to a nearby kingdom of Tepuach, and the king investigates the matter and finds out their story is true. Oh my gosh, these two members of Yaakov's family have destroyed a whole city, and all of a sudden they're recruiting 7 other nations to go and fight Yaakov's family, who is, servants included, who knows how many, but their family is like 15 people. So, and so why does that battle never happen? And this is a good takeaway for us with the current situation with Aza, is why does this battle never happen? Is because some advisors to the kings who were all ready for war, some advisors, and may this happen. This needs to happen in Iran and the Jordan and Yemen. This needs to happen to the nations surrounding Israel who are ready for war and ready to attack, is that there's these advisors that came and spoke to the kings. They made this long speech, and they mentioned how Avraham and Eliezer came against in the war between 4 kings and 5 kings, and that Avraham and Eliezer came and defeated the 4 kings all by themselves. And what did they do? They threw dirt, and they grabbed a handful of dirt and threw it at the armies, and it became arrows, Bezrat Hashem, and took out the whole army. And so based on this testimony, and they're also like, okay, if 2 13-year-olds can come and take out a whole city, what makes you think that we can, go against them and do any better? And so they were dissuaded from their attack, their plan of war, and never initiated it. So may that happen. May those kinds of advisors rise up. We can learn that lesson. And again, I welcome your comments, and I wanted to share that because I thought it was so relevant, and we can glean and use these points as prayer. But I think one takeaway is that we definitely need to take over Gaza. We never need to concede an inch of it again. We need to go in and we need to finish the job. Absolutely, we have to. B'ezrat Hashem, Father, I ask you right now that you would press go again, that you would press play, and that we would take over Gaza, because that's the only way to undo the systemic, institutionalized wickedness, right? That's the only way to go in and say, okay, this is not going to be a Sodom and Gomorrah. This is not going to be a place where you're institutionalizing the raising up of these bombers and all of that. So I use my language carefully right now with little ears, but love you guys. Hope you have a wonderfully blessed and protected prep day, and that Hashem accomplish the work of your hands in shalom and favor and success. And He bless you on all sides and answer your prayers. We ask you, Father, that in the merit of this limited understanding, that you would heal the sick of Klal Israel, that you would protect the IDF soldiers and the remaining those that the Asuim, those that are bound in Gaza, that they would be released today, even through your angelic assistance. Bless you.